Let's see if it goes. Okay, seems like it's going. I'll ask the project team to keep an eye on it. Well, I had a lot of fun in our session. I hope that all of you had a lot of fun and learned a lot and maybe made some new friends. So with that, I think we are going to, I'm just going to briefly screen share the questions so we can all be reminded of what those are or were. So hopefully you can see that now. And then we will move through to each breakout room and invite the reporter to just share, for 3 minutes, some highlights across your questions. So a reminder that we will share the notes. We don't have to be detailed in this moment, but maybe some key takeaways that would be helpful for the group to hear. So let's go ahead and start with the first breakout room. Oh, that's me. Love it. Okay, so we were in the CPFV owner and operator breakout room, and let me just pull up my notes. Sorry, I have a lot of things open because of the screen share. Okay, so our group was very exciting because we had our one and only Tim as our CPFV expert in the room, and we were joined by Sean, a professor, and Eddie, a commercial hook and line fisherman out of San Francisco area, and Santos from LED. So generally, how does California halibut contribute to your personal livelihood? Tim talked a lot about, oh gosh, I'm getting the pressure to do this quickly as an example. Talked about rough conditions, on the ocean, kind of driving how often fishing can take place, and that inside the Humboldt Bay, it's calmer, it's more reliable, but in general, he sees a strong year class come in. You capture shorts for a while, and then you start to get a mix of shorts and legal, and then you move to legal size. So you have a few good years, and then it disappears. And so it's this sort of boom and bust cycle. And I think I will stop there for that. Regarding sustainability, Tim talked a lot about the importance of a consistent fishery from year to year, rather than just the focus of a population that can support itself. He would support stronger regulations in the Humboldt Bay. He does think that fish are, there's a lot of fishing pressure, and that's why they're disappearing, not that they're moving in and out. Eddie, our professor, added on from an economics standpoint that there's, and so did our commercial fisherman, Eddie and Sean, talked about the importance of linking biological sustainability with economic sustainability. And so understanding, that you need to sustain the resource to be able to sustain the economy and the fishery. Moving on to bycatch, Tim talked about how the biggest bycatch issue in his area is sublegal fish. He doesn't really get other species. He's only caught 2 sturgeon in the last 30 years, an occasional leopard shark, and a Pacific staghorn sculpin. He thinks in general people are getting better with their release methods. Eddie, our hook and line commercial fisherman, talked about having minimal bycatch in the San Francisco area, occasional catch and release of what is caught that's not marketable. For changing ocean conditions, Tim broadly said that he hasn't seen, he sees local weather cycles, but nothing on a larger scale. And Eddie, I think, had a very different perspective, that he's seen a lot of changes in the San Francisco area over the last years, with a variety of new species showing up and disappearing. Talked about white sea bass, some red crabs and other animals. And really made the note that things are always changing. The ocean is dynamic. Whether or not you can contribute it to climate change, it doesn't matter. It's just a dynamic and changing environment. And our last question about recommendations, Tim talked about he's seen a lot more participation in the fishery up in the Humboldt Bay area, so he would support a 2-fish limit. He doesn't see the benefit of a commercial fishery in the Humboldt Bay area due to the fact that it's not consistent year to year, and that really it's a few guys that sell off the streets in local markets. And Sean talked about, he hopes that the department will consider the differences between the north and south areas of California and have recommendations that realize those differences and not have a one-size-fits-all solution. So I don't know if that was 3 minutes. I'm sorry. If it was longer, then please do better than me. But I welcome group 2.
I think that's me. So I'm Julia. The participants in group 2 were primarily staff of non-governmental organizations and CDFW, but we also had a participant in both the recreational and commercial fishery. And so for question 1, the relationship of our group the relationship between our livelihoods and California halibut in this group was indirect. So we just kind of noted that our relationship to halibut focuses on enjoyment and also responsibility for sustainable management as either a civil servant or a staff member for an NGO. The next question on what sustainability means to us and how we would view sustainability in the context of California halibut. There was discussion around we need to look at sustainability in terms of not just single species focus, but also ecosystem-based considerations. So of course, Bycatch is a part of that. The opinion was expressed that we should be putting California halibut on a management path that grows the stock, and that depletion states of around 11 to 18% that have been seen in the earlier stock assessment would be unacceptable, with the recognition that halibut is a highly variable stock. But that may not mean that we don't need to really worry about harvest and that the stock is just driven by the environment, but rather harvest needs to be scaled to those environmental fluctuations. Let's see, we really had a participant that really wanted to point out that at least commercially, the gillnet and trawl fisheries should be thought of as multi-species fisheries, although we are focused here on recreational, and that hook and line and spear methods are considered selective and generally sustainable. For the next question on bycatch specifically, we noted that for the recreational sector, it's challenging to define bycatch. But we focused on the need to understand different discard mortality rates that might be caused by different gear types and that might be experienced by different species that are caught at the same time anglers are targeting halibut. And we noted that the Marine Regions SURFs program does collect information that's relevant to bycatch questions, but that often the discard information is not available to them unless they were present on the CPFE. Okay, let's move to the next question, focused on climate change. It was noted that, at least for the northern stock, we've had some really strong recruitment, strong catches. It appears, at least for the northern stock, that climate change is good for halibut, although that may not be the case for the southern stock. We may be seeing just a species distribution shift. It's difficult to say at this time. There was discussion about climate winners and losers, but that we really can't say if halibut is a winner or a loser yet at this point, and need to recognize that the stock may be becoming even more dynamic than it already is in a new climate. We had some discussion about catch rates during COVID and additional effort during COVID. And then moving on to the last question, we really kind of ran out of time. but I was getting the sense that there weren't any real urgent recommendations coming from our group.
Thanks so much,
Fantastic.
Julia. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Sarah. I was just going to segue. I was just going to say, folks, that we're butting up on time and we should still get you out of here at 6 o'clock. But if anyone needs to leave right at 6, please know that we will be circling back with all of you in terms of summaries and recordings and such. So just wanted to pause on that really briefly, not to fast track us. We want to make sure we're being thoughtful here and also get you out on time. I had the pleasure, my name is Kelly, I had the pleasure of being part of Group 3. The Group 3 was primarily recreational anglers, but we also had a number of commercial fishermen, we had a number of department staff, and we had a number of folks that had multiple hats where they maybe worked for different agencies or different other organizations, but still were recreational anglers themselves. For the first question, there was a lot of really thoughtful discussion about the relationship that the participants on the call have, or the participants in the group have, with the halibut fishery. That it is an entry-level fishery. A lot of times folks who are new to saltwater angling rely on that fishery to get a taste of saltwater angling, literally and figuratively, that it's a meaty fish. It can live in the freezer. You don't have to catch a lot of it to put a lot of food on the table for friends and family. And they was, also particularly in Humboldt Bay, there was a lot of discussion about how it's a relatively safe fish to fish because it's quite a sheltered area. Waters are rough outside of Humboldt Bay. You can bring someone out. No one's going to be, sick, and everyone's going to have a good time enjoying their time on the water. I'm just looking through here to see if there's anything else there. And maybe there was also, that started then the conversation of that there's been sort of that shift of prioritizing halibut when you go out to fish, particularly in Humboldt Bay, where maybe a couple of decades ago it wasn't really a fishery that folks were talking a lot about or involved in, and over the last decade or so it's been much more of a prevalent fishery that people are active with. In terms of sustainability, there was a lot of conversation both in terms of defining sustainability, in terms of meeting fishermen's need without compromising the fishery's future, maintaining fishing opportunity while remaining close to target management levels, and then also sort of a broader conversation about what sustainability might look like, both in terms of some observing halibut just really doing so well over the last 10 plus years, and that in itself should be an indication, or could be an indication, that the fishery is sustainable, while others, acknowledge that there was perhaps a need to be a bit more predictable as to how each year would roll out, that would help to define sustainability, whether that was in a year-to-year time frame or a little longer term, maybe over 5 years, to show trends that might change. I think that was there in sustainability. In terms of bycatch, there was an emphasis that really in the recreational fishery, it was felt that there is not a lot of bycatch. It's really a non-issue. There's cases where something might be caught, but it's extremely rare, something you're not wanting to catch. There was a conversation about in the spearfishing fishery that sometimes folks that are newer to the fishery have a hard time sizing the fish underwater because they're getting used to that. And there's a lot of education that's happening to try and improve that experience. And so folks are targeting legal size fish. There was also then a bit of a conversation around in Humboldt Bay, particularly that there's a more legal-sized fish that they tend to see. This one fisherman tends to see. Another fisherman saying that in Humboldt Bay they see more shorts, and that they'd like to see a little bit more promotion as to how to handle shorts, some information that the department has shared in the past. And then there was the conversation also in San Francisco Bay of this shift that they see seasonally, that this fisherman sees seasonally, or at the beginning of the season, there's lots of legals, but over time, those legal size fish tend to drop off, and there's much more sublegals that are available, or shorts that are there. In terms of ocean conditions, There was a lot of discussion about shifting populations, something that we've already talked about, the population moving north. There was some question as to why that is, and the acknowledgement that there's still some information that maybe needs to be gathered there. There was some discussion about the relationship between the halibut fishery and bait that's available, freshwater, particularly in Humboldt Bay, that has a relationship in terms of where the halibut show up. Water temperature was another place, and the effects of recruitment and spawning was another place that was highlighted here. And then also the relationship between the halibut fishery and the salmon fishery, and that there seems to be a relationship that when fishermen have other fisheries to go to, that they're less targeting halibut, and when, say, the salmon fishery is closed, more focused on halibut. And so again, thinking about those freshwater, river, ocean connections on a climate scale. And then finally, I think I'm in the right, yep, finally the last question, in terms of all of the other things, there was concerns about the gillnet and trawl fisheries that were raised. There was a request for more of a flexible system to be more adaptive in terms of how the fishery is managed. There were interests in more data considerations in terms of how California halibut is, the relationship in terms of what else is happening in context to fluctuations in the fishery. And I think I will pause there and hope that I captured everything.
Amazing. Thank you, Kelly. So we know that was quick. Again, we will follow up these shared notes. Everyone will have access to them. So apologies if we missed important takeaways or miscaptured anything. You know how difficult it is to come right out of a conversation and summarize. At least I always find that difficult. So thank you, everyone. Okay, so in the last 1 minute, it might be 2, I will be prompt. I just wanted to highlight that this is the first webinar in the 3-part webinar series. The commercial sector discussion is next. And please note, this is Thursday, September 16th. There's been a date change. So if you received our initial email and if you've looked on the website in the past, you saw a different date. It is Thursday, September 16th. So please mark your calendars, and we will also convey this through other communication channels to make sure that everybody knows of this change. And the last webinar will be focused on highlights from these 2 webinars and looking ahead. So again, next steps related to scales management. Please visit the website. We already screen shared it earlier. Tons of helpful resources, and we will continue to add. So coming out of this webinar series, there will be a summary of key themes, one summary across the 3 webinars, just sharing the key takeaways from the discussion. The agendas, the PowerPoint presentations will be posted. Recordings are available upon request. We are going to work on a frequently asked questions document if there are frequently asked questions. So we already heard some, so the answer is yes, we will put that together. And then in just a moment, going to invite folks to fill out an optional survey. It's anonymous, it's optional, and it would really help us to prepare for the last 2 webinars. So here's the link to the survey. Avery will drop it into the chat. We would really welcome your feedback by Wednesday, September 1st. Again, optional and anonymous, but it will help us to plan for upcoming webinars and continued scoping phase engagement efforts. Lastly, you've seen this graphic before. Just wanted to highlight that we are here at the beginning of the exploration phase. So just a reminder, this is the start of scoping, which is why these conversations right now are very broad, right? Really just looking to open lines of communication, hear about your priorities and concerns, and please, stay involved. The conversations will narrow and we'll move along this timeline. So that is it. Thank you so much for your additional minute, but for the past 2 hours of your time and contributions. Again, the webpage is here, the link. Avery will drop it in. We are conscious that some folks who have joined the conversation today, we don't have your email or your contact information. So if you're comfortable, you can drop your name and your email into the chat. It'll just go to the host and co-host, and we can make sure that we include you on our list so that you do get our email with the summary and the shared notes and so forth. To RSVP for the other webinars, email MLMA Fisheries MGMT for Management at wildlife.ca.gov. Again, anyone is welcome, but the next conversation will focus on the commercial sector. And Kirsten Ramey, always available and happy to connect with anybody about California halibut. So please feel free to email Kirsten, kirsten.ramey@wildlife.ca.gov, and she can answer all of your questions and needs related to California halibut. Thank you very, very much. Thank you, team, for your collective support, and we are wishing all of you a fantastic night and a weekend ahead. And yes, just many, many thanks, and please stay safe and have a great night. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.